Hi, I'm Mark. I'm one of the pastors here at Trillium. It's a great pleasure to invite you to another one of our video series. We're looking at our core values. Today we're looking at the core value, offer friendship and fellowship to all as understood in the context of giving and seeking forgiveness. We see ourselves as having one major core value, offer friendship and fellowship to all. Not just some or a few or even many, but to all people. And now we're looking at the notion of forgiveness as an essential part of being able to extend that friendship and fellowship to all people. It's the grudges and the hard feelings that we hold on to in ourselves that stops us from extending this love and this friendship to other people. What would it take for you to let go of the grudge in your life? What would have to happen for you in life in order to let go of the grudges that you hold? You know, one of the problems that the grudges, the lack of forgiveness, it actually causes us to fall asleep to the spiritual nature of life. If there's one thing that religion agrees on, all the religions of the world, all the spiritual practice of the world, they may disagree on a lot of things, but they agree on one thing, and that is there is more than meets the eye. There's more than meets the eye that's going on in life. There are forces and powers at work in the universe that we don't yet comprehend or have perception for, yet they really matter. There are things that are going underneath the surface that are as important or even more important than what we can see on the surface of life. And we all know this. We all know even within our own lives, there are things that are driving us that we don't really even understand. And it's true even on a cosmic level that we are engaged in a life that has within itself a force or a power at work within us that we don't yet comprehend. But it's so important that we do. We need to comprehend this other reality. We need to understand it. We need to work with it if we're going to make life fruitful for ourselves. Paul, in his letter to the Ephesians, talks about this. He says, "For our struggle is not against enemies of blood and flesh, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this present darkness." And he could have just as easily written, "For our struggle is not against that which meets the eye, but against those forces and powers that exist beyond our current comprehension and perception." Here's our dilemma. I've already mentioned it to you. We've fallen asleep to the spiritual nature of life. We've fallen asleep to our own spiritual nature, and yet this is the very part of life that we need to wake up to in order to make sense of it all. You can't make sense of life unless you understand the spiritual forces that are at play. You know, it's interesting. A Course in Miracles says that when someone attacks you, it's always a call for love or a call for help. What do you think about that? Anytime you've been attacked at work or at school or attacked in your home by your spouse or your kids, it's always a cry for help or a cry for love. And so often when someone attacks us, we take it so personally and we react from attack with attack, either by being hot or cold, but we ultimately respond to attack with attack and we misunderstand what's happening in the circumstance. And for that reason, we actually react incorrectly to what's needed in the moment. How would it be for us this day, instead of actually attacking outward when we are attacked, to actually offer forgiveness in that moment? Realize what's really going on when people reach out with us with aggression or with maybe even malicious intent. It's not really a personal attack at all. Yet it's so hard not to take it personally. I was recently selling my house, and I'd worked so hard in getting it ready for sale. And yet those first people coming through looking at it had mostly critical comments to make. And rather than seeing that as helpful information to myself, I took it personally and I got upset with it. Like, how could they not love my house? It looks so great. In fact, it looks so good I want to stay. I don't want to move. How could they not love my house? I worked so hard on it. Yet I didn't get that affirmation, and I took it personally. You know, if someone, rejects you in love, it's so easy to take it personally. Or if you don't get the job, it's so easy to take it personally. Or if someone, attacks one of your kids, insults one of your kids, it's so easy to take it personally. My brother was telling me that he was at a hockey game recently, and one of the kids from the other side in the last minute of the game cross-checked one of the kids on his team into the board in a really nasty way, and he laid him out cold. I mean, the kid had a concussion. He was out cold, and this kid showed no remorse, and my brother made this comment aloud that was derogatory. Turned out that the kid who'd cross-checked mom is right beside him, and she went berserk. She went ballistic on my brother. What would it have taken for my brother to realize that that was a cry for help or a cry for love in that moment? Not to take it personally, to attack personally. Actually, my brother dealt with it fairly well, but nonetheless, when we're confronted with those circumstances, it's always easy to meet kind with kind. And yet that's not what Jesus calls us to. He's on the cross. He's looking at those who have attacked him face to face. He sees their malicious intent, and yet he says to God, he says, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. They don't understand. Those people, that young man who murdered those 3 RCMP officers in Moncton, he didn't understand who these guys were. He didn't know who these people were as police officers. He had no concept of them as human beings or as spiritual beings. He saw them only with the uniform, and he saw their presence as a threat to himself, and he attacked outwards, and he killed 3 magnificent people. Think about the 2 police officers down in Las Vegas around the same time frame that were assassinated from behind by these 2 people who saw the police as a threat to themselves, and they reacted by attacking outwards. One of the officers' name was Island Beck, and this is what it says about him. He says he was a Renaissance man, carpenter, architect, master chef, defender of musicals, teacher, keeper of promises, parent, loving parent of many children. Did those 2 people who killed him have any sense of who he was as a person? Did they see the sacred nature of God in this man's face? Did they have any understanding of who this was before them? They were asleep. They were totally asleep to the reality of this other human being in their midst. They saw him only with a uniform and as a threat to themselves, and they killed him. Yet they didn't understand what they were doing. They couldn't have understood, because if they'd known who this man really was, they would never have done what they did. You know, when you really fall asleep and you take it personally in the deepest ways, you become insane. You really do become insane. In fact, we're all insane to a point, because we've taken life in this ego-personal way and we've lost track of what it's really about. How about we wake up together? How about let's begin to wake up? Course in Miracles says that we wake up primarily through the extension of forgiveness in our lives. When we really deeply forgive other people for what's going on. When we forgive circumstances that are going on around us, and we really let it go, really let the grudges go. In that moment, the spiritual nature that lives within us wakes up a bit. We wake up to the truth about who we are and who the person is around us. We see the sacred face in all people. That's how we can offer and extend friendship and fellowship to all people, because we recognize who it is on the other end of the communication. Let's communicate in the world with love and with peace and joy. Let's embrace the call of God this day to be truly the awakened body in the world. And then we can see truly the celebration of life that God intends for us. Do this, go in peace, extend God's love, be awake, forgive all circumstances. Don't take the surface level seriously. Know there's more than meets the eye. Go in peace.